things, various levels of illumination, street lights, urban landscape, and all of those things that add to their cone of vision when you drive. It's very important. If you strain too much and you cannot consistently do that, then it becomes a danger. So I agree.
And even in our homes, some of the lights, so when we were growing up, most bedrooms had blue lights. You remember those blue incandescent bulbs and lights, the red ones? And I don't know whether that's also one of the reasons why my generation, a lot of my friends, my age mates, now wear glasses. I thought maybe you should hit about 50 usually before you start losing the elasticity in the muscles and your cornea and all those things. And now people are wearing.
I just hope that we are able to research a bit into how the infrastructure, the buildings, and the lighting, power, and all of those things affect our general
and even
public
food.
health. Food, yes. I mean, and so I think it's something to look into.
Tony Asare is the president of the Ghana Institute of Architects and is our guest this morning for the Joy Sustainability Month conversation. We are talking about building sustainable cities. It's one of the 17 SDGs. In fact, yesterday when Dr. Akwa came here for the conversation, we went through the SDGs. We tried to go into details with a lot of them, and we got to SDG 11, which is make cities and human settlements inclusive and sustainable. And I'm happy that Tony is here. But you are the president of the Ghana Institute of Architects. What does the institute do? Is it a school? What does it do?
Well, first, thanks for the opportunity to speak, and good morning to your audience. The Ghana Institute of Architects is the third part, or let me talk about the organization first. Formed in 1962. We've been around for 63 years. We have a membership of about 1,350. We are based in Ridge, but the institute's role, apart from its professional role as an organization that trains and upholds the standard of professionalism when it comes to architecture, also is the third part of training to become an architect. So it's not like an association where you can say that, well, you can decide not to belong to it. But as far as we are concerned, and the way the law is structured when it comes to the Professional Bodies Registrations Act, you do your part 1, which is the BSc architecture.
As your first degree.
BSc design. And then you do your MArch or PGDIP architecture. So after the 6 years, you work 2 or 3 years to write your professional exams. The Central University also offers a BArch, which is a straight 5-year course. And then post-graduation from the School of Architecture, you work for 3 years as a probationer. You go through professional training and practice under the pupillage of a certified architect, and then you write your professional exam with the Ghana Institute of Architects. So the Institute of Architects is not an association. You need the professional institution to write your exam to be certified before you can be licensed by the Architects Registration Council to become a licensed professional architect, or let's say a chartered architect.
So to be an architect in this country, you need to, if you use the KNUST route, you do 4 years of a first degree.
Yeah.
2 years postgraduate diploma or a master's,
That's right. That's correct.
And then you work for 3 years.
From the KNUST, you work for 2 years.
Okay.
So that makes it a minimum of 2 years.
A minimum of 2 years.
Yes.
That makes it 8 years.
That makes it 8 years.
After that, you study and you write the professional exam.
That's right.
With the Ghana Institute of Architects.
That's right.
When you pass, then the Architects Registration Council will certify you to
be
practice
a licensed architect. But even the certification is an annual thing.
Okay.
If by December 31st of every year, each and every professional's license in this country expires. So if by 31st December you have misconducted yourself in any manner, your license will not be renewed. So it's not a guarantee,
Okay.
So every year you go through a new certification, and your license is renewed for you to practice, and that is the law. I mean, it's the same thing for lawyers and for a lot of other professional.
Yeah, I was going to
licensing
come
bodies.
there. So,
Yes.
just like law, you do your first
Your bar.
degree, then you go to Makola, and then after Makola, you write the exam again.
Yeah.
So you write an entrance exam to go to Makola, then you pass through Makola, and then you are called to the bar.
Yeah.
But unlike the legal profession, the Ghana Bar Association is not the institution that conducts the exams. Is
I think the General Legal
Legal
Council
Council.
that does that, yes.
Okay. So 8 years to become an architect. That's a long time, isn't it?
Well, it is, but it is worth the hassle. I mean, for those, a lot of us call it architecture, where you go through endless sleepless nights, learning to understand the etiquettes of architecture, how to design learn how to do your design development and things like that. The course straddles a lot of things. You do a bit of landscape, you do structures, you learn how to work with electrical and mechanical engineers, so you have to touch based on each of that. You also have to do a bit of psychology and sociology, because I mean it has to do with dealing with people, understanding the human behavior and all of that. You do all sorts of courses. You do history for about 4 to 5 years. You do a bit of rural planning and urban planning. You learn how to work in an office, or teaching office. It's also augmented by the Ghana Institute of Architects, where architects who are in practice give opportunities for young architects to intern in their offices. So it's slow, it's long, but it is worth it.
Charlie, a bit of the history we learned about Stonehenge. We drew it. Great Zimbabwe, the Great China War, romantics of bamboo.
The bamboo texture thing is something that the K University is
Charlie. So it's interesting. So you have 1,350 members. Can I assume that that's the number of registered architects in good standing who can practice in the country?
Well, registered and architects in good standing is a bit less than that. I'm sure it's between 750 and 1,000. Some are out of the country. We are trying to even clean up our register, because we even have some who we've lost over the period, and every day we have to update it. But we also induct new members in late September or early October. We'll be inducting a new set of young architects who have just gone through the professional practice exam. So we are there about 700, 800, 900
architects for a country with a population of 34 million. That's not enough, is it?
It isn't. If you look at the population dynamics of distribution of architects, about 72% of architects are all based in Accra. Another maybe 22% are in Kumasi. And the rest are in the regions. AESL, the universities have architects. The number in Cape Coast, for instance, is growing. It used to be just 1 or 2, but I think that they're about 9 or 10 now. There are a lot of architects who are now working in a place like Ho that had just 1 or 2 architects, and most of them are either working in the development offices of the universities. So I mean, you have numbers in Takrady as well. So as the universities grow and the development offices also are established within the university campuses, a few more architects will be distributed. But the distribution is such that the rural communities are disadvantaged. So I am sure it's a conversation that we can have at another time.
Yes. I'm looking at the distribution. It's almost the same as doctors, lawyers, pharmacists.
Yeah, but the doctors are doing better basically because in most district hospitals they have 4 or 5 doctors, maybe rotating 3 shifts, and so you could easily have maybe 8 or 12 doctors in a place like Asamankesi, and maybe just find no architect based in Asamankesi.
Yeah.
So and most architects are employed by the private sector. So I mean, they would gravitate towards areas where they can make a living, and it's going to be the urban areas.
So who is designing the rest of Ghana?
Well, it depends on a lot of things. I'm sure if you are from Kou and you are building your nice place, you would certainly consult an architect
in Accra.
In Accra who would be working there. So it depends on what what are our new perceptions, and what I would call the value that we place on the house or the country home you want to have. So I'm sure that you would, wherever you travel to, I mean, I've been to up north between Tumu, Golu, and all those places, and I've seen some people put up very nice houses in those rural communities, and I'm sure the architect will come from Accra. But it is best if the architect is based in the district, or the regional capital, to be able to service that industry. In Bolga, we have a few architects who are based there as well.
This is the Joy Sustainability Month. We are talking about building sustainable cities, and our guest is the president of the Ghana Institute of Architects, Tony Asare. Reason why I'm talking about the profession is that as a built environment person, the architects are always the leaders of the projects. They are the design team leads and basically end up being the visionaries for almost every project. Without an architect, a lot of things will not be done right. When they design, then the other professionals come in with their bits. So if you are building a house, for example, the architect will design. Your QS, based on the design of the architect and the other professionals, will cost it for you. Your mechanical person will put in the mechanical parts, if it's an elevator, if it's this, if it's that. Electrical people will do their bit. Everybody has a bit to play. So without the person envisioning and putting all these together, there will not be harmony. And it looks like with 1,350 architects, we don't have enough designers to bring harmony into the system. That's why our cities are the way they are. Is that a fair thing to say?
That is. I think it is fair, but I also think that as architects, we need to improve our public education when it comes to the benefits of using an architect. I've always said that the simplest of designs even requires the services of an architect. You don't have to wait to, when you want to build your mansion, to be able to call on the services of an architect. So we are needed. I mean, even the design of very basic stuff, like bus sheds. I've seen some very horrible bus sheds being constructed all over Accra. I mean, I really wish that we had, the architects behind it. I'm still trying to find out who is behind those bad sheds. We should be able to have aesthetically pleasing bus sheds constructed all over the town. We shouldn't be a 20-story structure. Any basic thing that we decide to do, we need to be able to consult an architect to help us to envision it better, supervise it, and make sure that we get good quality.
So you go to a lot of bus stations and bus sheds, and the sheds are not functional. When the sun is out, the sun hits you directly. When it's raining, they cannot shield you from. If you get to a bus shed and you're waiting for your trotro or your bus, you can't even comfortably sit and read.
Exactly.
So you believe that we need to have all those things designed and included in our urban system to make it better.
Yeah.
So far, this is what I've learned. So the Ghana Institute of Architects was founded in 1962. They basically are an association of architects and also a conduit for licensing for architects, if I can put it that way.
Right.
You cannot be certified by the Architects Registration Council if you've not passed the Ghana Institute of Architects exams.
That's right.
And they renew licenses every year. So if you don't do right, for example, you design a bad house and it collapses and it kills people, they will investigate and may not renew your license, right? And they have 1,350 members. Now, this is a country with how many districts do we have?
261.
61 districts.
Yeah.
So if every district, and by law, every district must have architects at the district assembly or the municipal assembly, at least. So if each district actually has one, out of the 1,003, we'll have about 1,000, let's say 1,100. Okay. And then the universities and the tertiary institutions will have almost about 200 or so, right? And that's it. In the end, we have about 300, 400 architects to serve the rest of the population in, I don't know if I can say retail architecture, if you want. So this is the problem. I'm concluding without any further research that this possibly is the reason why our urban spaces, our communities are as dysfunctional as they are, because we don't have enough people to design, we don't have enough people to enforce development control, and we don't have people to envision the next life for our cities. Is that fair to say?
It's fair. Let me maybe step back a bit. Last year, the immediate past president of the Ghana Institute of Architects, Architect Foster Osanyakuno, did series of town hall meetings. I think about 16 of them, going around the various district assemblies, and it actually made the whole situation of the lack of architects in the district assemblies even more obvious, and the quality of environment is directly connected, with the number of architects in the various assemblies who can actually check on first the drawings that are submitted, whether they are compliant with very basic architectural spatial requirements. So if they are not there, then that some of those drawings are being submitted by those who are not qualified to be architects. So the absence of these architects is showing. I mean, the Ghana Institute of Architects has started over, I think, the past 8 or 9 years, to engaging the Ministry of Local Government through the various assemblies, especially the urban-based municipalities, metropolitan assemblies, where we go through some kind of peer review of designs that are submitted. But it is not something that is all over the country. I mean, that is the first step that, as architects, as a Ghana Institute of Architects, we've taken to make sure that we look at designs that are coming into our system, into our urban spaces, rural spaces. But for now, we do not have architects all over the district, district assemblies. If the local government, anybody from local government is listening, I mean, we need to be able to push for a stronger collaboration between the Ghana Institute of Architects and the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, and make sure that at least we can have architects going back. I remember in the time when I got out of school, 97, 98, thereabouts, the then president of the Ghana Institute of Architects, I think it was a time of Kenneth Amprechum. He started by saying that each architect could go back to their hometown. I mean, I come from Achimpram Kese and Chebi, right? If I could go and help the district assembly there once a while, then you are transferring capacity a bit into your community. If anybody came from the north, Navrongo, or somebody coming from BA somewhere, Seshakontombra, or maybe
so once a month you go back to the district, and go spend 3 days, yes, help them to do reviews.
That's right. But it wasn't, the local government actually didn't receive it very well, and so we couldn't push it further. But I think it is time for us to start looking at these things. How we can have serious collaboration, not just with the Ghana Institute of Architects, also with the Ghana Institution of Engineering, for instance. How are the structurally sound buildings put up in the various communities? We could even talk about the collapse of the Achimbatabi church, where they were building and the district assembly kept going to them and telling them to stop work, but it collapsed and killed 14 people or so. And when we have to talk about collapse building, not just the urban areas, in the rural areas as well. So that collaboration is needed at the policy level, and for us to be able to look at it clearly and find a way of implementing it and making sure that the footprint of architects are all over the country.
We've seen a lot of disasters, for example, and one of the main jobs of architects is to design a harmonious system. So we've seen flood disasters. The June 3 flood disaster is something we all remember. We've seen the Melcom building collapse. We see a lot of road crashes. And sometimes people really don't link these things. We are seeing over 2,000 people die every year on our roads, and it's all part of the reasons why. We've seen our children stressed in schools because the schools are not sometimes built well, designed well, and we have a lot of challenges within our urban system. So this really worries me, and maybe the Scholarship Secretariat should be looking at giving people more scholarships to locally study more architecture and some of these important courses to enable us build the right communities. And
yes, there are two schools of architecture now, KNUST, Department of Architecture, and then Central University, and the UESD in Somanya is also trying to start a course in architecture. We've had cause to complain about student-lecturer ratio at the universities, when it comes to training of architecture, and even the participation of practicing professionals with experience going back to the classroom to assist. This current Ghana Institute of Architects Executives, the council, visited KNUST. We had a very good, very fruitful meeting with the Vice Chancellor of KNUST. We've come up with some initial policies to attract practicing professionals back into the classroom. So we are taking steps. I'm sure over the next year or so, we should be able to crystallize some of these decisions and make sure that we are getting, architects properly trained for them to be able to come into the system and serve our community.
Now let me bring you back to our SDG 11, for which reason we're having this conversation.
Right.
And for listeners, I'm really going on and on about the architects because, obviously, I think that to be able to have sustainable cities, you need to have the right technical people to lead that job. And at the moment, we all agree that we do not have that. We do not have that. That's a big problem. For example, in well-being, when we talk about well-being, about a month ago, we had a conversation with a pharmacist here, and we don't have enough pharmacists in our hospitals. So in places where there's a doctor, the doctor will do everything with a biomedical scientist. They will diagnose everything. They will give you a prescription. But you need a pharmacist to help you interpret that prescription. The pharmacists also help us in the whole drug value chain. So we don't have it. So people are taking all sorts of medication and having all sorts of complications. It adds to our well-being. So in the built environment space too, it's becoming obvious that we don't have enough people. So that's why I'm staying on this conversation and getting to understand the situation with the leaders when it comes to design and the design of our cities. Yesterday, Dr. Akwa was here. We went through some of the SDGs, and basically, we both seem to agree that even though we've seen improvements, we are not going to hit a lot of the targets by 2030 as a country. In your space, in designing sustainable cities, do you think that by 2030, we can achieve something, what are some of the smart things we should do, little things we should change about our communities, urban settlements, to make them better for us, so that by 2030 we reduce the risk of disasters in the space, movement is a bit more convenient, housing, energy, even recreation and creative art. We're watching the video of what's Mandem Yopik, the young man who is an immigration officer. We were listening to Amachi today. How do we build communities and cities that even promotes the arts? Any smart ideas to share with us in trying to achieve the goals for SDG 11?
Well, okay, maybe for listeners' benefit, let me just touch on the simple goals for SDG 11. I mean, it says that we should we are looking at providing by 2030, providing access to safe and affordable housing, upgrade slums and informal settlements, improve urban planning and management. It's very clear that we are lacking the reducing disaster risk, protecting cultural and heritage and natural heritage that we have. I mean, our forts and castles, we have, our Ramsar sites, which has come into our conversation, and urban, enhancing urban environments, and which we've already started talking about. Let me start with safe and affordable housing. I think we've had a lot of talk about affordable housing, and we say that it's a sliding scale. I mean, if you, for instance, look at the kind of houses that we are providing these days in our urban areas. Let's look at all these very flashy apartments that is coming up. For instance, have we got a policy to make sure that housing is provided evenly to satisfy the various population, so that we don't have a lopsided housing provision? For instance, why should we have a lot more high-end housing and we do not have low-income housing? Can we legislate, for instance, and say that if you are developing high-end housing, because all these houses would have to be serviced, by gardeners and security men and cleaners and all of those things, should we mandate it to make sure that others also, when you are a developer, you provide to mitigate some of the problems that we are creating? I mean, if you study the development of slums, for instance, and it's not a very recent development or phenomenon. If you look at the whole of Laboni, cantonment area, when it was established, the slum of Apapa and those areas started. When Tema as a settlement developed, Ashaman developed. When you look at Accra Central as a huge bulk breaking area, when it developed, Sodom and Gomorrah, or what we call Old Fadama, and areas like Mensa Guinea developed. Now, so why is it that we start with policies to develop areas, but we do not come up with legislation and policies to mitigate, the ills that will come out of that,
and make the development more inclusive?
Make it more inclusive. So those are some of the things that we are talking about. And usually when we talk about risk, everybody talks about floods and all of those things, but those are not, in fact, the day-to-day risk that we face is sometimes even more very basic. Let me give a simple example. We have had people who have died being knocked down by cars when they went for jogging in the morning. If somebody in Tema bought a bicycle for his son, expecting that he should be able to ride a bike to school, and the child was knocked down by a vehicle. We have sidewalks, being taken over by kiosks and containers and all of those things. Those are the day-to-day risk that we face. We don't face floods 9 months, 12 months of the year. We face basic risks
every day.
I mean, look, I recently saw a fire near Redco area, and fire service was struggling to battle it. And and it's not just there. We have had even the former president J.J. Rawlings's house, got burnt from the fire service.
In
March this year. I mean, for fire service, from fire service head office to Rawlings's house, possibly like some 3 minutes drive, and there was no water in the fire hydrants. So why do we worry about floods? Why can't we look at the complementary infrastructure that supports our cities for it to be livable? Those are the things that we are looking at, and we have a lot of these policies sitting on the shelves and doing nothing about it. Look, we recently had some of these when the Ramsar sites, the demolition started, and there was this horrible message that came from a group of people who were petitioning government that this thing should not go on, and it was a very difficult look. We really share their pain that you've done all this construction and it is being demolished, but you see, they are just places where we should not construct. The Ramsar site, after Ghana signing on to the convention and making sure that we want to preserve these ecosystems and all of that, we get people doing construction right into the lagoon. If you look at Google Maps over the period of about 20 years, you realize that the spaces that allow the lagoon to evacuate into the sea and for the sea to be also come during high tide back into the lagoon is being constricted. So what it simply means is that if we do not stop it, over the next few years, we are going to have very heavy flooding upstream, including those people who build there. You can't even construct a sane septic tank.
Areas like even East Legon sometimes flood when it rains.
As for when it comes to floods, I mean, there are so many issues. Some could even be from infrastructure-induced flooding. I mean, after constructing debris, there were areas where we never had serious flooding until the debris, Adenta Highway and even the N1 was constructed. We haven't gone to look at, in terms of data, how the rate of stormwater collection has increased. And for instance, how do we even legislate for areas where stormwater collection has increased? Do we just allow them to continue paving? Because when land values increase, residential buildings convert to commercial. So offices, they are turning to offices, meaning that you have to park a bit more. And we do huge concrete paving. Can't we allow paving in such a manner that we can allow for percolation, of our driveways and things like that, and even decide that we want to be able to tax those people more. When you decide that you are doing a change of land use, we should be able to tax you to be able to help carry out mitigation. Somebody shouldn't feel comfortable uphill and let another person suffer. So it is all very connected. We need to be able to come to the point where we look at data and infrastructure, policy, legal framework, and all of that.
So you've given us one area to make our cities more livable, sustainable. We need to look at housing, and we need to look at the land use generally. And so if I'm, say, the developer of, say, Airport Hills, based on what you're saying, I should be able to put aside maybe 30% of the land in that development
for
low-income housing.
Yes, complementary housing.
The security guys who will work within that space, the gardeners who work in that space, the messengers, all the other people who would work in that space who cannot afford the $300,000 homes can get simple housing within that space. They don't have to commute all the way from Dodoa every morning to come and keep you secure and drive back. Okay. Okay, and that should be done with policy and law.
Yes, you see, it has to be done with policy, law, taxation, and funding.
Okay.
You know, it's not a very straightforward thing. I mean, it's not just there. I mean, areas like Trazako Airport Residential Area. And
I
all
use
of
airport
that.
residential because the place is nice.
Well,
when I'm driving
yes.
over the thing and I see the place, I love it. I want to go and live there too.
Everybody, that's where we
But I
all
can't
aspire
afford
to.
it.
You can't, you see. But if you go right behind where Alhaji Banda's mosque is, there is a very seriously thriving slum behind there. And we ask ourselves, you know, how do we mitigate that? You see, the thing is that if the person lives in Dodowa and comes to work every day, and you look at their income levels, they will certainly look for a place that is close by to temporarily accommodate themselves. That is dormitory accommodation.
That's why you go to the Spintex area, the
Spintex
industrial
area,
areas. Almost
yes,
all the workers,
yes, along
a lot
the
of them
motorway,
live in slums.
exactly.
Because
behind Trazako Valley, there are huge slums coming up from in those areas.
Yeah.
Everywhere that you have a huge settlement that actually attracts work group, you know, where, and it is a low income work group, there is always informal settlement attached to the place.
I've also seen a slum in the Standards Authority area,
Yeah.
FDA Standards
That's
Authority,
right.
the General Legon coming down to the N1. You see all these new high rises, and there are a lot of slums also developing
between
there. So
them, yes.
every development must think broadly.
Exactly.
It's not that I have money to build this high-end infrastructure within the city, and I must just be allowed to do that. I must have a 360-degree approach to the construction such that it meets every need of the built environment and the community as well. March 2001, the late Kofi Annan, then UN Secretary General, said that our biggest challenge in this new century is to take an idea that seems abstract, which is sustainable development, and make it into a daily reality for all of the world's people. And we are trying to break some of the things down. Especially, we've seen the line being constructed in Saudi Arabia. We've seen all these flashy towns, all these sustainable towns and villages and cities in the Scandinavian region and all. For some of us, it may look abstract because we think we cannot get there. But the reality is that we can work on it chip by chip, block by block, every day, and change the Ghana, the Accra, the Kumasi, the Tamale that our children's children will live in. That's why we have these conversations. And Tono is still here. One, we spoke about the Ghana Institute of Architects, number of architects, the challenges with all these design, control, look, this conversation we're having with Tony is like a full semester's course if we are really going to exhaust it, but we are trying to put everything together in a 45-minute to 1 hour conversation. And he's also shared some of his thoughts on how we can change our urban systems. I loved the housing bit. Any other thoughts, any other ideas, any other pain points for you which you think we can fix, and how do we approach them, Tony?
I mean, one of my biggest maybe I'll call it embarrassment is how dirty our cities are, and how we treat waste, and how we, you know, the whole human behavioral thing when it comes to this country, and you know, the way we dispose of waste. People sitting in trotro and throwing out water sachet.
They still do that?
People still do that. You know, and the way we are sort of treating single-use plastics with kids' gloves. Look, there are countries in Africa who have gone ahead and banned single-use plastics. Kenya, South Africa has started it. Kenya has done it, and you know, we still do not want to put responsibility on those who produce single-use plastics. In Kenya, for instance, when you buy anything from the shop, you're giving a plastic paper bag, you know, that you can carry out. There is water that is usually water is dished out in bottles.
Yeah.
And so knowing the way we are dealing with plastics, all forms of plastics, including even artificial grass and things like that, it's a source of worry. I raised this issue and somebody passed a comment that, we should follow the money. If you look at the income that is made from single-use plastic, sachet water bottles, and all of that, it's huge. And so if we want to do that, we need a holistic approach to it.
On the 5th of June, the president said he was going to ban the single-use plastics. He said that at the National Tree Planting event.
Yeah. Well, did he say the single? Well, he talked about other packages, for
including styrofoams.
Styrofoams.
He says that one of the biggest polluters is styrofoam plastics. Wherever you go and buy your food, and they put it in that whitish something, and you finish eating and you just dump. That is one of the biggest polluters, and so we are going to ban the importation of styrofoam plastics. And he says we have to use paper packaging or aluminium foil for our foods, and he's working on all that. So that's what the president said.
Yeah, I just hope that this government would follow through that. I mean, it's doable. Others have done it, and again, as I said, Kenya has done it. We should be able to deal with that. We need to be able to have a clear policy when it comes to waste collection, waste transportation, and waste disposal. I'm not sure any chief would want their land to be converted into a landfill site. So the earlier we start reducing waste that gets into our landfill sites, the better. I mean, I'm still surprised why we haven't been able to institute a waste separation policy in this country. Why can't AMA decide that maybe they are picking an area within maybe Accra Central? Let's call them zones. Maybe zone A policies, something that we can start within a very small area and start collecting waste. Let's look at, how much of it is plastic waste, how much of it is organic waste, how much of it is paper, how much of it is, something else, so that then we can have policies for that. Because you see, if we take organic waste, for instance, we can turn them into composting and use it to look at,
so in the organized neighborhoods, that can be done.
That can be done.
The urban sprawl, it will be difficult to.
Well, no, I think it is. We shouldn't be giving ourselves the excuses yet. I think that it is good for us to start small and then scale up. It's important that we start from somewhere.
There's a lot to talk about, but very little time. Maybe SDG 18 should add time management, and we should add one more SDG.